So the goal of this short video presentation is just to illustrate how to use SOAP UI to call one of the two REST APIs from Oracle Policy Automation. If you've ever used SOAP UI for creating a SOAP call, then creating a REST project is very similar. You use one of the two root URLs and then you build a request. However, in the case of this REST API, like many, we need to authenticate our request, and that's done using OAuth 2.0, which means that before you can successfully make the request, you're going to have to build an authentication profile, which you'll find down here. And you're going to select the correct authentication mechanism, in our case, OAuth 2.0. You can give it a name. And then we need to set up how the credentials are handled. And in the case of these, it's called Client Credentials Grant. And you are going to select the username and password of an OPA integration user, which you set up on the OPA hub. And there's the basic URL for getting the access token. And what this means is once that's set up, you'll be able to, from within the SOAP UI console, get hold of a token which will enable you to make one or more requests to the REST API. So when you're using the REST API, always remember that you need a token, and always remember that you're going to need to switch to the JSON output to be able to see the results of your call. For example, here it says I'll need to switch over, and now I can see the results. This was a list of deployments from my OPA hub. And you can also study the details of an individual deployment, or you can look at users and perform various actions on users. So this in itself is fairly straightforward. Here we go again. There's a list of data about I've just refreshed it now, so you can see the name of the deployment, and that was one of the ones that we were using in an example video earlier on. And using this, of course, you could build this as some sort of automation tool for administrative purposes using any one of the many REST clients. Now, the second one, which is the batch assessment tool, is license-based, so you may not have permission to use this. But it's a very interesting and very powerful tool. It lets me build a request which contains essentially multiple scenarios. In order to be able to use this, I can reuse the key from the previous authentication because I haven't had any timeouts and I haven't closed the session. The batch assessment lets me build essentially a request which is made up of outcomes, which is what am I trying to discover. In this case, I'm trying to discover whether people have lost their driving license or not. And then I build a set of cases. In this case, there are a couple of cases representing two people who have been stopped for speeding in different places. And when I execute this, I essentially run the determination for both of those scenarios, and I can see that both of these people will lose their license. So this is a very powerful batch-driven tool for doing hundreds, thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of cases, which can be very interesting for what-if purposes and so on.